Let's talk money.
Hello and welcome to this special Women's Day edition of Let's Talk Money, brought to you by CNBC-TV18's Future Female Forward initiative. I'm your host, Surabhi Upadhyay. Let me start by wishing all of our lady viewers out there a very, very happy Women's Day. We hope that you take out some time to pat yourself on the back and celebrate your hard work and perseverance, whether you're a working professional, a homemaker, or an entrepreneur. Now, while we women work very hard for our careers and our families, we tend to put our own financial well-being way lower down that priority list. Why is that? Ladies, it's time to change this, and it's time to take charge of our financial wellness as well. And helping us do this today are Ashish, Shanker and Neha Pathak from Motilal Oswal Private Wealth. Lady and gentlemen, thank you both for joining in. It's a great conversation. I love to talk about, women and money at any time, but why not? Especially when Women's Day is just around the corner. So, happy Women's Day to you, Neha.
Thank you, and wish you the same.
And can I wish you as well, Ashish, because without men participating, we cannot have a happy Women's Day, right?
I know. Happy Women's Day to both of you and all your women viewers. I mean, for me, every day is Women's Week, but this week obviously is special.
Yeah.
Because there's a focus on women.
So let me ask you, before we get started with the whole show conversation, you both are professionals in the financial world, and you see a lot up close. Neha, of course, has expertise in legal matters and law. What has changed, if I ask you, say, in the last 5 years or 6, 7 years, when it comes to women and their whole approach towards money? Ashish, what has changed?
So I think three things. I think there are more women in the workforce, especially professionals. And you see many successful women at the helm of a lot of companies, right? So there is more money in the hands of women. And I also see women far more confident about money than probably, in the early growing up years. It's an irony, though, because, women are known to manage household finances. And my first tryst with money was with my grandmom. I mean, she used to lend me money, right, and charge interest on it.
Oh, really?
So,
she did?
Absolutely. So that's when I first learned how compounding works, because I tried to pay her back with simple interest. She said, no, simple interest doesn't work for me. You have to compound it.
So you learned the power of compounding way early.
Absolutely, from my grandmom. So it's an irony. I mean, women are extremely good at household finances, but I think as more and more women are coming into the workforce, and I also see women who are homemakers now getting involved in family investments. So it's for the good. It's for the good. More women participating will give us more perspectives as well over time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do for the purpose of this 20-minute conversation is break this down, and we thought it's best to do this by bucketing all of us women in 3 categories, and typically we will fall in one of these 3. So either you are single and earning, or you're married and you're earning, or you're not earning. Maybe you're a homemaker, maybe you've retired, maybe you've taken a career break. So basically you're a woman, but you're not earning. All 3 categories, and women in these categories need to be very aware of their finances, and we'll get to that step by step. But before we kick off, and if you talk about the first category, actually, Neha, what is the general advice that you'd give to women out there when it comes to money, finance, and coming to these uncomfortable conversations that money conversations usually are?
See, money is something that you need. How much ever we say that money is materialistic, we all need the money. At the end of the day, we need to learn how to save it, how to put it at the right place. And for that, according to me, you need that knowledge. You need to have that understanding on how to save the money, where to save the money. Like, I have friends who are not working or are single. They are putting their money in gold. They are putting their money in fixed deposit. They are putting in their money in securities. But somebody has to guide them. There's always an uncle or a father or a brother helping them out. Wouldn't it be better if they can do it all by themselves, or a part at least? So have that understanding, have that knowledge to go ahead and make that investment.
Yeah.
So yes, money is important. Learning is too.
Absolutely, and we can only ask the right questions if we're a little informed. Otherwise, you simply have to follow anyone's advice. I mean, more or less blind. Let's get started with the first category, Ashish. Women who are single. Now, they could be early in their careers or even mid-career. I mean, these days, women end up getting married or choose to get married a little late many a times.
Right.
So for this category of single earning women, what are the first steps? What are the important do's and don'ts?
Right. So just building on what Neha mentioned, it's important that women spend more time understanding money, especially power of compounding, because you have so many options in front of you. You have a simple fixed deposit, right, where the risk is extremely low, but you get a fixed guaranteed return. And then you have equities on the other side, where the ride can be very volatile, but you end up compounding your money faster. So it's important for women to spend some time and understand the character of different asset classes, so that then they can figure out themselves as to how to invest their money. Of course, I can't forget gold when it comes to women, and gold has done extremely well. So how do you create a portfolio is something that they need to spend a little more time. But other than investing, I think there are a lot of other things that you need to take care of, primarily insurance, right? And typically what I've seen is, whether it's single working women or married, women increasingly are the ones who are taking care of their parents. So it's not just insurance for self, but even insurance for parents,
your parents.
right? So whether it's medical, whether it is life insurance. So I think these two aspects are extremely critical. And then like any other person, you create a budget for your aspirations and do goal-based investing.
Yeah.
Because you'll have different milestones in your career, so you'll need to plan if you need to buy a house. I mean, for a single working woman, I think buying a house is extremely important. It gives you a lot of security, right? So how do you create a corpus for the down payment, right? And then you need to budget for the EMIs.
You know, since you brought up the house, I have to ask you this. It's a question that I think a lot of people are completely confounded by, both men and women. When it's about that house that you want to buy, are you in the camp that believes that just buy it early if you know that you're going to be in the city for a while, then just buy it, take that EMI loan because you'll be staying in it and keep paying it off? Or are you in the camp that would plan for it, build a corpus over 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and then look at making that big move on a house?
See, here it's very individual, to be honest. Now, on an Excel sheet, you could make a plan saying that, look, I'll compound my money in equities by putting it in SIP and buy the house later.
Yeah.
But, an SIP doesn't, or a portfolio doesn't give you as much comfort as your own house. So I would say that go ahead and buy that house, even if you stretch a little bit, because over time, remember, the EMIs will remain the same, but if you're successful in your career, right, your salaries will keep going up. So you'll be able to save later on, and real estate is also a kind of saving. Although all of us are biased towards equities, but real estate has also done reasonably well. So I would say that go ahead, because real estate also gives you certain tax breaks, and it gives you security. So if you are clear that you want to stay in a particular city, go ahead and buy that house as early as possible, I would say.
Okay, all right. We have some questions coming in from our viewers, so let's try and answer them as well. I think we have Karvi Agrawal, who's now joining us on the show. Karvi, thank you for being with us on Let's Talk Money, and a very happy Women's Day to you. Please tell us, how can we help you? And tell us a little bit about yourself, whether it's your own money you manage or whether you get someone else to do it for you.
Hi, Surabhi. Thank you so much for having me. We built our own in-house team, and I manage our family money. My question is, given the market volatility, how do long-term portfolios with 100% equity manage risk? Should investors lean towards more niche absolute return strategies at this point in their portfolio?
Okay, Karvi is a smart young woman. She's managing, a bulk of the family money as well. Karvi, thank you for that question. I think it's a question a lot of people would wonder, right? Especially who are full on in equities, and now they've seen the market going completely topsy-turvy. So how does one navigate this?
So I think the first thing is to have a plan, right? Especially if you're managing a family office or family money. Create a plan. Now, the plan could be as follows. How should the asset allocation look? And that is determined by what is your expectation in terms of returns. So let's assume that someone decides to have an aggressive portfolio, let's say 70% equity and 30% non-equity. Now, you will see ups and downs during the course of your investing journey. Having an asset allocation plan helps you rebalance the portfolio. So today, I would presume that portfolios on an average are down 25 to 30%, so that 70% may have come down to 55, 60. And this may be a good time to start rebalancing the portfolio more towards equity.
Okay. All right, speaking of asset allocation, there's one more query that's come in, and I think the lady here has a query on gold. So let me quickly get to this. Vidhi Lamba, she is with us on the show right now. Vidhi, thank you so much for joining in. Tell us what's your question, and also is it, I mean, for your money on your behalf, or is it a family decision that you're looking at?
So I do manage my own money, my family's investments. And my question to you today is that since I'm a private jeweler, I do have my investment in gold is organic. Should gold be a part of my family asset allocation? And if not, what else can I look at?
Okay, that's an interesting question. For a jeweler or a jeweler family, you anyway perhaps have a lot of exposure towards gold. So what would you advise in this specific case? Does she still need to allocate separately to gold?
Very interesting question. So let me give you a parallel and answer this question. See, ideally, we would like every portfolio to have some gold because it's like an insurance and gold is done extremely well. Let me take a parallel. Let's assume somebody is in the real estate business, right? Should they invest in real estate as an investment, right? So the questions are very similar.
Yeah.
My answer is, if your business is of jewelry and gold, then ideally you should not have gold in the portfolio because you already have a lot of exposure to gold through your business. Correct. And you're exposed to the vagaries of that asset class.
Absolutely.
Similarly, a lot of people who are real estate developers, they do not have real estate exposure outside of their business.
Because anyway, the business is fully exposed.
Absolutely. So that's the only way you can create a bucket which is different to what your business is. Because see, remember, the objective of portfolio is not just to earn returns.
Right.
Objective of portfolio is also to ensure some amount of diversification.
Absolutely. Before we take a break, very quickly, Ashish, you brought up insurance in between. A lot of single women tend to not think about term insurance because you're single, you're still young, and you don't have dependents, perhaps at that point in time in life. But should they still think about term insurance, and why?
They should, because see, your premiums are significantly lower when you're young. Okay, as you age, your premiums tend to go up.
Yeah.
And then there are multiple riders also that you can add. So it's not just about life insurance, but it's also riders in terms of critical illness, so on and so forth. And remember, in a lot of, I've seen in a lot of single working women's cases, their families may be dependent on them. So, right. So in case something does happen, then, you know, that acts as a pot for the family. The other thing is an interesting way to look at term insurance is when you're younger, you keep adding, you know, different policies, right?
Yeah.
So you look at it as an option. You're paying a premium. Over the years, as your corpus keeps building up, you can stop paying premium gradually.
Okay.
So you reduce the cover. A lot of people don't think of it that way.
Okay.
The only way you can think about it is you think of insurance premium as an expense, not as an investment. Many people, invest in insurance thinking I'll get
something back.
Something back. So if you can orient yourself not to look at it like that, like buy, let's say, 5 term insurance policies as your incomes keep going up, and as your corpus keeps building up, you stop one of them, then you stop 2 of them.
Okay.
And that's a very interesting way of looking at it. But your premiums are significantly lower when you're younger.
Sure.
That's one of the main reasons why you should start young.
Okay, all right, got that. We have to take a quick break, and when we come back, then we talk about women who are married, and then they could be earning or not earning, and that's when it starts getting complicated. We'll have Neha help us out in how they can manage their money.
Let's talk money.
Welcome back. You're with us on the Women's Day special edition of Let's Talk Money, and we're talking about how all women, single, married, earning, not earning, how all of them can take better financial control of their destiny and their financial well-being. So, Neha, now we've discussed the single women, and life is usually a little more simple when you're single. But when you're married is when the complications arise, because there are joint aspirations, joint goals, and there is the concept of individual financial security as well. There's so many what-ifs in life, right? I mean, how long are you with your spouse? If there's an untimely exit from a marriage or death of a spouse in a marriage, how do you approach this? Overall, where would you begin? What would you tell women?
See, when you're married, you have got enough things that you have to deal with. So as a married woman, I can surely say that you have to deal with your family, home, and office.
Yes.
So priorities are there. So at any given point of time, this is going to be your priority. What you need to do is carve out some time, plan for yourself that what are your assets, where are your assets, what are you supposed to do with those assets. What if something happens to any member in the family? How will these assets be of any use? So as Ashish said earlier, that you need to budget in things. So that budget has to be prepared, that if there is an eventuality, where do I go?
Yeah.
If I have got assets, does my spouse know where my assets are? Where is my bank account? Where do I do my investments? A lot of time we all start doing investments when we are single.
Yeah.
Our parents have done it, or we were working and we made the investment. Our spouse also needs to know at some point of time, they should be aware that where are we making that investment?
Yeah.
Again, insurance is an important part.
Right.
We need to know that where is my spouse's insurance? What is it? Who do I need to call?
Let me ask Ashish on this point. Ashish, I mean, back in the day when I started looking at personal finance 10, 15 years ago, it was always about you get married, you have a joint plan, and then you plan for children, you plan for retirement, everything is joint, you plan to buy a house. How is the whole model changing now? Is it still a taboo to talk about individual plans and aspirations within a joint plan? I mean, what do you tell couples who come to you where the woman also wants a certain degree of her own financial independence, especially if she's earning?
Yeah, no, you'll be surprised. I think women are thinking more and more independently, right? Typically, the house is on the joint name because of the loan and the EMI and the eligibility. But once that is done, after that, incrementally, you're seeing more and more women doing their own plans, right? Whether it's SIPs, whether it is buying gold, because look, women are far more creative shoppers than men as well, right? So other than planning for the goals, they also need to keep some corpus for themselves and for their parents. I have seen incrementally women supporting their own parents. So lot of women are thinking independently about their own finances, and they're taking decisions on their own. But like Neha said, it is important from a succession planning and from a knowing where all the assets are to ensure that your spouse knows how to access it in case of any eventuality.
Okay. Now here I want to get to a very important concept, a concept of Stridhan. We've all heard of it, but we might not really know what it's all about. As women, Neha, tell us, what do we need to know about this Stridhan? All I know as well is that it's, assets which belong to me. Nobody else can sort of claim them or touch them. But I don't know. It's this amorphous cloud. How do I claim it? Does it have to be locked in a bank? Or, what is this whole Stridhan business about?
See, Stridhan is, it's a Hindi term. So if the moment you convert it into English, it's Stri is woman, Dhan is wealth. A woman's wealth. A woman's wealth from the time she gets engaged to the time she is married to the time she is married to the person. Whatever gifts she is receiving, whatever inheritance she is receiving, any asset that she earns, or any asset like her father bought her a real estate, she is earning rent on that. That rent, her jewelry, in-laws gave her gifts during her wedding, engagement, during the course of the marriage. All this is Stridhan.
Okay.
Now, as a woman, one needs to ensure that there is a proper documentation around it. If there is no documentation, at least one should be responsible for it.
So let me ask you for the question there. If it is, let's say, an asset like real estate, typically it will be, and if your parents have made that investment on your behalf, it would be in your name or on joint name. But when it's, highly valuable gifts, like maybe ornaments, jewelry, etc., typically, how do you prove that this is yours or it was gifted to you? How does it stand up in a court of law?
So generally, when these gifts are given, at least in the Indian society, I can say that when they are being gifted, there are enough photographs that are being taken around it. So one needs to keep that proof.
Oh, that's important.
That's very important. It might come handy at some point.
Okay.
And also there are bills around it. So why was that purchased? It was purchased to be gifted to this person.
Okay.
So those kind of proofs one should keep, and keep it carefully.
Okay. Well, that's Stridhan. So all the Stris out there, please know what your rights and obligations are with respect to this. It's security for you, which perhaps you can claim if you have the right documentation. We have another query coming in from a viewer, and I think this is a query that goes beyond even the realms of marriage. Sometimes, I mean, if you're taking a career break, maybe you're not earning anymore, but you're in a family, you're married. Then what are some of the issues that you could be confronted with? Megha Ved is our next viewer on the show. Megha, thanks for joining in. Tell us, how can we help you?
Thank you so much for having me. Going ahead with your question, yes, I do manage my own money and look after the family office as well. The pressing need which I am looking for answers would be the inheritance planning, and how important is a family trust in today's scenario for families, and how we can, what would be the process to form that, and what are the nitty-gritties involved with that, and how do they help in more effective taxation.
Okay, Neha, this one's absolutely yours. Family trust, succession.
Yeah.
What are some of the basic house rules?
So see, first things first, you need to consolidate or make a list or a checklist that what are your assets? What are the assets that you would want to keep it in your name? What are the assets you would want to move to a private trust? Now, these private trusts are made by an individual for the benefit of the family members. They can be made with the objective that we want to ring fence the assets or protect the assets against any kind of problems that may come in the future. They are also very useful because people want to plan their succession properly. They don't want the interference of court. So one has to take probate on a will. Here you don't have to take a probate. So people make trusts or form trusts for different reasons. You can do investments through the trust. You can transfer assets in the trust. So that is why in the beginning I said that make that checklist.
Okay.
That what are your assets and what assets would you want to safeguard or you want to keep aside in a trust, and what are the assets that you would want to keep in your name.
Okay.
And once you have that, the assets that are in your name, make a will around it.
Okay.
Very important to create a will, probably have it registered, but have it signed by 2 witnesses for sure. And the private trust you can create depending on who all are the family members. One of the family members can create the trust and contribute funds in the trust and make investments through the trust.
Okay, I think this calls for a specific classroom, and we'll have you
Yes,
come back in
yes.
to give us more details on this. But as we are winding down, Ashish, for women who are married, now whether they're earning or even the ones who are maybe taking a career break, like I'm saying, or not earning, maybe homemakers, what is the most important checklist that they should keep in mind when it comes to securing themselves in all eventualities financially?
So, I mean, just building on Neha, what she mentioned, I think it's important to understand where your money is, right? So, to make a checklist. Second, if you're managing the family office money, like we spoke, I think knowledge of compounding and asset classes is important. But let's say if you've stopped earning and you're now becoming a homemaker, then it's also important to see what are your cash flow expectations from the portfolio, and if the portfolio needs to be redesigned accordingly, right? And the portfolio also needs to be reviewed on a yearly basis, because you have different phases. When you're married initially, then your kids take over your time, and then when the kids go for their schooling or college, then you get a lot of time then you get more time for yourself. And the cash flow requirements also change, right? So it's important to understand where your money is, what is your cash flow requirements over the next few years, is the portfolio correctly positioned based on your cash flow requirements, and accordingly run the portfolio going forward.
Okay, all right. These are very helpful tips, and it's great advice coming from both of you. And I think our women viewers will do very well in kind of, listening to some of this and incorporating it in their own personal finance plans. Thanks very much, Ashish and Neha.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Surabhi.
Surabhi.
It's been a pleasure.
Joining in. Thank you so much. And with that, it's a wrap on this special Women's Day edition of Let's Talk Money. We wish all the women out there lots of health, wealth, prosperity, peace of mind, and more progress all the way. We'll see you again next week.
Let's talk money.